But the thing I want to talk to you about today, and I've been given an open door, is three things: opportunity, success, and having a drive. Dr. King once said, if you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's deep. You ought to give him a round of applause for saying that. That's deep. When I first heard that speech,
media is a very influential medium in terms of the media aspect itself. So at my age, I figured, well, what's the best thing for me to do? And media seemed very easy, very able to be accomplished entity. So I started it.
And you have obviously done well. In fact, you impressed many of the people here at the station because you rode up in a stretch limo. Now, is that yours?
No comment.
No comment. But obviously your media company has done well. So how did you go from being an 11-year-old or 9-year-old with this idea to now, of course, having your own website, having your own company that is doing well? How do you encourage and tell other kids, really, how you start from point A and become a success?
Well, the first thing you need to do is set a 5-year goal, 5-year strategic plan. You don't get anything accomplished if you don't have a 5-year plan. You have to realize you have to stick to that 5-year plan. So if you don't make it by the 4th year, you can't give up the 4th year. You have to keep going until the 5th year. And so I started my companies with the idea that I had to wait 5 years to see where I was going to be. And if I didn't want to continue that road, I had to do something that would continually build upon what I've already done. And so that's what it was to me. Make sure I get all my things lined up and continue on the process. You got to be the little engine that could go up that hill, and when you get up to the top of the hill, you're on top of the world.
And I would recite something in the Bible. It says there was a 12-year-old who had a discussion in Jerusalem, and when he got out of Jerusalem and went back to Nazareth, he had a discussion with his parents, and his parents were bothering him and touching him and trying to make him do things he didn't want to do. And at that moment in his life, he said, "I'm going about my Father's business." And I realized then, I said, there's nothing you can do to change my aspirations. Imagine me, 9 years old, talking like I'm talking now, waving my hands in the air, thinking that I'm Mr. Griggs. Imagine the type of peer pressure I went through. Imagine the type of students that were trying to get me to do evil things. I just think myself as saying, in Ohio, and I was doing a speaking engagement. And this young man came up to me. He says, "Your name is Hezekiah Griggs, right?" I said, "Yeah, my name is Hezekiah Griggs." And I was acting a little childish at that point. So he said, "Hezekiah Griggs." I said, "Well, wait a minute now." Popped my collar back and I said, "Oh yes, I'm Hezekiah Griggs." I went to shake his hand. His name was Anthony. This kid was in a wheelchair, affluent, white, and had leukemia. And he says to me, he says, "Hezekiah, I want you to know something. You're my role model." And my Mr. Griggs persona I had to step back for a minute. I said, "Wait a minute. The vehicle here." So Anthony tells me, he says, I asked him, "Why do you think I'm your role model?" He says, "Because you have hope and you have a drive to defeat the pressures and the evils of society." I said, "Man, what do you mean I have a drive? Don't you have hope? Don't you have hope for yourself?" He says, "Nah, man, the doctors told me in 6 weeks I'm going to die." This kid tells me, at that point I'm trying to emotionally deal with it. He's got 6 weeks to live, and he tells me that I'm his role model. I don't know if that touches you in a way, but it touched me like nothing other. It changed my life.
I'm still trying to get there, but when I get there, you'll see me.
Now, for the typical, and I don't mean to stereotype at all, but for the typical junior high student, they're perhaps not thinking about getting a goal of a successful business. They're perhaps thinking about, dating and the prom and, other things. So how do you concentrate on studies and the other things you have to concentrate on, as well as a media company?
Well, I always put it this way. If you teach a dog to stay in a dog pen, it will stay in a dog pen. If you tell children, if you tell my peers that they can be presidents and CEOs at our ages, they will become president and CEOs. It's very easy to stereotype and put them in a block. Just say, well, all you can do is watch cartoons, so stay over there. You can't help me. But if you tell them that they have an opportunity to change the world, they will change the world. And that's what you have to tell kids these days. Kids are the most powerful medium in the world. They can do anything. Anything that happens is directly or indirectly affected by teenagers.
Now, your initial product was what?
Great cinematography, and my grandfather, he's a minister, so I would film him, and I would just, be out there with my little camera, and I would be filming. And one day, an old lady came up to me and said, "Son, how much that tape cost?" And like the light clicked off, like they see in the commercials, just big green light or yellow light, and I said, "Oh my God, money!" And that's why I started.
Did that business do well?
Oh, that business was the best year of business that I've ever had, ever. I have not come close to making as much money as I made when I was 9.
But you didn't stay only with that.
I didn't stay only with that. I started a company called Justice Incorporated because, as I said to many people, it's not only about money to me, it's about helping other people. And when I sold my first business, I gave my money away. It was just like that. Justice Incorporated was to look at America and say, what can we do to make it better? And that's what my goal is in life. How can I make society better? And as a businessman, I'm in a perfect opportunity, not only economically, but socially. And when I'm speaking, I can make change happen. And that's why I became such an affluent businessman, as some would say.
So then you got into the magazine business.
Yes, yes.
How did that do?
Oh, at the beginning, I started a magazine called Project American Justice with that same idea from Justice Incorporated. And it didn't do too well in the sense that I was only focusing on a certain demographic, focusing on just one thing, justice in America. So I decided to go to the drawing table and start a magazine called Teens Reaching for a Unified Era, True, which we focused not only on justice, but focused on world issues, bringing back to that concept. If you teach teens that they can be prosperous in the world, they will be prosperous in the world.
So how's that magazine doing?
Oh, that's doing great. Look at the cover on that magazine. It's all done by teenagers. It's very impressive. I, sitting back and watching this stuff myself, I'm just like, wow, we did that,
So are there other people noticing, taking
Yeah,
notice?
there are other people noticing. Almost every week I'm doing a TV show, or I'm Washington, D.C., I'm at a high school speaking, at a college speaking, and that's just shows signs that teenagers are doing great things these days. And I'm hopefully empowering other teenagers to do the same. Get out there and make your voices heard, get your voices counted, make a difference.
And because you are making such a difference and impacting so many at such a young age, people may forget that you're still in high school.
Yes, I'm still in high school.
So what's after high school?
What's after high school is college, and after that, Lord knows. I mean, if you give me too much yarn, I may take over the world. I don't know.
So, in terms of your future, who's really had the greatest impact on your life? Do you think?
I have to sit back and dwell on it, but I think it would have to be Dr. King. And I'm only inspired by him, but what he said. There's one quote from his drum major insect speech that says, if you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's deep. And I really dig that. And that's why I'm, motivated to do what I do and to continue on doing what I'm doing.
Back to your company for just a moment. In terms of its structure and the way it's set up, do you have a corporate structure? Do you have a staff?
Oh man, it's getting confusing now. I have even assistants that work for me. So I go from assistants to VPs. I have directors of marketing, director of communications, and that's just one of the main entity, HE3 Media. Now I have another offspring called Realize Your Potential, which is a motivational company, and now we're going to have to get some people to run that portion of the business. And I'm about to launch a new cosmetic line for men called Moments with my partner Landon Woodson. Very good cosmetic line. Look out for that in the future.
So how do you come up with the ideas, and then once you have the ideas, how do you incorporate it into a corporate level?
Well,
structure?
You have to get into that think tank mode. So sometimes I have meetings and I sit there and, it could be hours, and I'll sit there and say, what can we do? And then you come up with an idea. And then you think about it again. How can you refine that idea? It takes a lot of work to be successful. And you just can't think it's going to be an overnight process. You've got to put time into it.